Hi, Capital H listeners. It's David Mallon, your co-host, and Deloitte's Human Capital's head of research. Today's episode is another that's being recorded from the expo floor at the HR Technologies Conference in Las Vegas. So if you hear some noise in the background, that is the sound of innovation in all things technology related to HR and our workforce. Today, I'm joined by close friends of Capital H Pod and Deloitte, and one of our vendors on the floor here with a great booth, and that is Eightfold. Joining me from Eightfold is Jason Gorski. He's president of America's Sales at Eightfold AI. Jason brings more than 2 decades of experience building and scaling high-performance enterprise sales teams. At Eightfold, he's leading their go-to-market strategy across the Americas, focused on sales execution, deepening customer partnerships, and accelerating adoption of their AI-driven talent solutions. Welcome, Jason.
Hey, thank you so much, David. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So let's dive in. Take a moment to kind of introduce yourself, obviously introduce Eightfold for our listeners who may be not familiar. But as you're doing it, I kind of invite you to sort of step back and reflect on your time at Eightfold and sort of their mission and how Eightfold's evolved in the industry and sort of what that says about what clients are looking for, and et cetera.
Yeah, I think, it's representative of what we're seeing here today and really this whole week at HR Tech. You look at HR Tech, there's just this natural buzz around AI. And I think everything Eightfold, we are a native AI company. And that's really exciting for us in the current moment and everything that we're doing as an organization. And the last 20 years, I've been with many other HR technology companies, and seeing the innovation that Eightfold is bringing to the table is really, really exciting. And so we're happy to be here, and I'm happy to see that continued presence that we have from an HR technology perspective, really honing in on that skills, the people. So really it's recruiting and everything through that.
Okay. So what do you, especially in a moment like this, I'm sure you've had lots of current customers, prospective customers, et cetera. What's the market telling you? What are clients asking for? How is this shaping your and Eightfold's view of the world?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of confusion in the market right now. And I think people are trying to understand what really is AI. I've heard this a lot this week, organizations coming to us and just wondering what makes us unique. And again, it goes back to who we are as a company, the foundational elements of being a native AI company. And so that's what we're hearing from people. They're trying to gain a sense of what we actually do from a differentiation standpoint and how our AI is empowering them to make better business decisions, hire the right people, upskill their organization. Whatever challenge they have, if it's industry specific, if it's a global organization, allowing our technology to help them make better business decisions around the people and the talent.
How is what you've heard even just this week, you think, influence your roadmap or sort of your goals into the future?
Yeah, I think there's a lot there. I think number one is we have to double down on what we're doing. And that's really from an agentic approach. So our solution is a native AI, but with that, we have an opportunity to really take it many different ways. And if we just hone in on the TA side of the equation, there's a lot that we can do to help organizations drive innovation. We have our AI interviewer, which has just gained so much buzz and traction and people constantly coming over to do an interview. That's really exciting, but what more can we do? How can we go into the performance side? How can we go into other areas from a sourcing or other kind of core elements within that recruiting and hiring process? So I think for us, it's really just figuring out what our customers want. And we're seeing a lot of traction within the TA side. So just doubling down our investments and building products and getting them to our customers.
Makes sense. Just a kind of quick reflection of my own walking around this week is, in a way, it's odd. Simultaneously, there are so many startups addressing TA, and then there are established players like yourselves. Obviously, it's always been an important space. It's always been a space that gets a lot of attention. Yep. It's always been a space where companies spend a lot of money on hiring, and they often get it wrong. So you can understand why it's this focus. Yep. But it's interesting that there are, if you were a startup, if you were starting a company, to me, I'm not sure you would tackle TA just because it's such a flooded market. Yeah. And yet, obviously, no one's completely solved it yet, right?
Yeah, there's no question to that. There's a lot of players in the market. And I think, again, going back to the core of our solution being the talent intelligence and having that data set there that really empowers the TA side and differentiates it. It creates a different user experience. It drives different results. And that's why we see Deloitte and other huge organizations that are gaining those benefits because of that core capabilities from an AI perspective.
Maybe talk a little bit about, from your perspective, the history of that relationship and sort of why it's valuable.
Yeah. I mean, there's no question. Deloitte, you all are thought leaders in the industry. And really, when we look at the growth of our organization and when we are tackling very large kind of talent and an employee kind of transformational issues, if it's focused on the TA, the TM, wherever it is, Deloitte is a crucial component within that. And so with you all to drive that transformation within organizations is important. And so with you, not only with customers, but also from an innovation perspective, helping us understand what you're hearing in the market. How and where do we need to focus our time and attention as we continue our hyper growth?
Sure. And we have our Fast Forward Talent Intelligence program as well, which you are part of. I'd be curious to get from the other direction, sort of how you're contributing to that.
Yeah. Well, I think there's no question. Driving faster time to value is what every organization wants. And there's always this consulting transformational effort that you all bring to the table and other great partners do as well. But I think when we talk fast forward, it's really important for us to lean in and I think drive more industry specific approaches that are more plug and play for organizations to gain quick wins. And I think that's a big thing that AI, when we get the feedback, organizations are struggling with getting that quick time to value. And that's what Fast Forward does. It helps us drive speed to value, gets organizations return on that investment, which is important.
Makes sense. One space that sort of obviously getting a lot of attention these days, but one that I think it's worthwhile spending a moment on, your recent success in the public sector. So, for example, earning FedRAMP and DoD authorizations. Just your thoughts on that sector in general and sort of how has what's happened there recently differentiated you from others?
Yeah. It's a shocking thing to think that the federal government is innovating ahead of market-leading publicly traded companies. And that's a conversation I've had with several leaders this week. And I shared with them, they were asking, give me an example of organizations that are really driving innovation. Like who's evolving their skills and their workforce at like such a great scale? Like where are you seeing that? You have said it, and it most often makes people laugh. And a couple of CHROs have looked at their own teams and been like, we need to do something really fast, but is what we're doing with the federal government and the focus that we're bringing to the table with you all. When we look at those certifications that we've brought forward, we're able to drive incredible transformation at grand scale. And so we've invested, obviously, purpose-built applications for the federal sector, and we're seeing a lot within the agencies just from a growth perspective. So it's really fun. And I think that's an approach that we're going to continue to take as we drive forward because we see the success that we're having with the Marines or other great organizations. And so how can we take that same playbook from an industry perspective and look at other industries? How can we replicate that? And I think that's something we want to continue to do, but it's really exciting to see all of our growth.
I'm sure the scale and complexity there's lots to bring back to the commercial side.
There's so much. I mean, think about that. When you're talking 500,000 employees and you're thinking of the scale and complexity of the Marines or the Air Force, all of these federal agencies, there's a lot that we're taking back to these other areas. And what we're actually seeing it quickly translate into the state agencies. So a lot from a state perspective is driving the work that we've done on the federal side going into state, but then how can we also apply that to other areas of our business?
Great. Makes sense. So while we're focusing on things that you've won recently, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
My understanding is you've been named Top HR Product of the Year by AI Recruiter. So for your AI Recruiter product, I should say. Just maybe give us a few words about the product. What makes it stand out? Share maybe some of your customer success stories attached to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's really incredible. I'll share a couple stories. I think number one, our AI interviewer is, when I came on board, seeing it firsthand, trying it. And if you haven't tried it, David, you got to try it. It's really incredible how intuitive it is and how lifelike it is. But really, it's all driven from that same talent intelligence, that skills data set that we've been building for the last 9 years. So it can go through and have a very simple conversation. So we're seeing great use cases with global organizations that are just looking to drive more efficiency from a recruiting perspective. So we have organizations that are, hey, we're outsourcing relationship. We're now going to transform it, and it's going to be driven by the AI interviewer. We then have other organizations that are looking to give an additional kind of white glove touch to their recruiting process. And so you can think of even insurance companies, even a consultant organization like Deloitte having that conversation. But again, the beauty is not just that AI interaction, asking questions from an interview, but it's really what it does with that data. So number one, the skills and match score that comes with it to help inform the team of like, who are the right candidates? How is that interview really perceived? And how does it align to the expectations of that role? And so that's what's really exciting about it is it's just really intuitive. It's built on a massive data set. And I think lastly, it's really a plug and play solution. And that's what we're hearing from customers. There's a global company, Fortune 100, and they're looking at driving AI innovation. And this story for me is just really resonates at the end of the day, because what they're trying to do is they need to go drive HR innovation through AI. So they've done this massive effort where they've reviewed all these vendors, talked to everyone, and in the end, they have found only one solution is truly plug and play for them. And that's our AI interviewer. It can drive value in a matter of weeks, which is really exciting. And a lot of these other applications, there's great value, but they take a lot of horsepower and resources to get them set up. And that's the value. It's that speed to innovation and really that native AI behind it that drives that inevitable outcome you're looking for.
So we'll start to wrap things up. Before we go, maybe it is possible that there are probably still clients out there, prospective clients out there who are new to this notion of how do I bring better data and intelligence to make people-related decisions? What's a parting piece of wisdom you might give them to sort of get started?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of confusion out there, and you can see it in the market. There's been a lot of consolidation within our peers and from a competitive standpoint. And I think number one is look at the customers. Look at the customers that are relevant to you from an industry, scale, and complexity standpoint. So who are the customers that actually have had success? Number two is get under the hood and really look at the technology and understand how it's going to drive transformation for your organization. So we do a lot of hands-on workshops where you're able to take the application and really utilize it just like you would as a customer. So I think that from a buying perspective is, hey, go look at the customers who's actually using this. How long have they been doing it? What's the value they've gained? And then secondary to that is really lean in and learn more about that technology. And I think what you'll find is a lot of organizations have an AI strategy, but is it core to their product? And that differentiation right there is what's key to what we do in the market. And I think is something important for everyone that, goes out and is looking for a new technology to make sure you're digging at that level.
Thank you. I think that last piece, maybe we'll have you back on in the future. I'm really interested in how we're starting to use tools, whether it's in TA or otherwise, to help us make decisions. And in so doing, are we as clear about the accountabilities and sort of the technologies behind the decisions? Are we clear about sort of what the algorithm is telling us and why it tells us those things? And do we have the safeguards in to make sure it's the decisions we'd like to make and so on? But again, for a future topic, that will do for today. Jason, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
And thank you, listeners, for spending some time with us today. Please do let us know what you think about Capital H. Like and subscribe wherever you find us. Leave us some feedback or reach out on social media. We'd love to hear from you. Until then, stay curious. This podcast is produced by Deloitte. The views and opinions expressed by podcast speakers and guests are solely their own and do not reflect the opinions of Deloitte. This podcast provides general information only and is not intended to constitute advice or services of any kind. For additional information about Deloitte, please go to deloitte.com/about.